Welcome to Mostly Speakers, where I take a look through my collection of vintage hi-fi. The Mostly Speakers channel is just that, a place for me to talk about speakers and electronics that I have, and also a place to put my non-railroading interests. Today, I'd like to thank the LGR channel for the inspiration to go thrift shopping. This is what I came home with, a cassette deck. Let's take a closer look. This is a JVC model KD-A3. I'm quite amateur when it comes to tape decks and electronics, so please bear with me. The reason I picked this deck up is because I needed something to copy tapes to CDs for people, and I needed something that plays smoothly and consistently. Let's take a look at some of the features of this deck on the front and back, and then I will open the lid and we will see if I got a pile of junk or if it's halfway decent. So, like I mentioned, this is a JVC tape deck. The information I found from cassettedeck.org says it's from 1979 and was gone by 1982, which is about what I expected. On the left, we have two analog VU meters, which light up a nice red and green, and above that, there's also a LED peak meter. Below the meters, from left to right, is the power switch, headphone jack, two mic inputs, which I don't use, and then the ANRS switch, which was apparently the JVC version of Dolby noise reduction. Then there is the tape type select switches, and then the small knob is the output level. This is useful for me since I am going to be using this deck primarily for playback, not recording. The knob is scratchy and needs a little cleaning. Above that is the much larger input level knob, and above that are two LEDs for the Super ANRS and record indicator. Next to that is the analog counter and reset buttons. Still works, too. Below the counter is the record mute button, which is a momentary switch for muting the mic inputs, I would assume. Lastly, we come to the tape mechanism on the right. It looks quality, with a nice amber light behind to show the tape in progress. This is not a fully automatic deck, but uses piano key switches for all the tape functions. All of which work perfectly, except I have not tested the record, and the eject actually barely works. I'm going to play a tape here, but you won't hear it because of copyright, and also I don't have the output connected. This is just to show the meters working. Now let's switch the camera and open the lid and see what's inside. I have all the screws removed and the lid easily lifts off. This is what is inside, and here is where I don't know much, but you can see the main audio board at the bottom. From left to right and front to back, I will point out features that I see. I'm also scouting out to see if there is a motor speed adjustment. The power switch is mounted in the back to keep the high voltage runs shorter. Nice. The audio board looks very well labeled, and standing out in the middle are the two noise reduction IC chips. This shows me the board is split into left and right sections. I can see portions for different processing and control functions, and there's lots of adjustments. I can see they used nice ELPS controls for the record and output levels. Moving on, at the back right side is what I think is the power supply board sitting above the transformer. I don't see any motor speed adjustments, but I can trace the motor wires to this board here. There is a capacitor on the motor itself. Maybe that has to do with the speed control. I'm sure many of the capacitors are failed and need changing, but I would need a service manual and a little more practice at servicing electronics before I tear into this. Without tearing apart the tape mechanism, I can see the motor drives a flat belt with a large flywheel. The belt is not turned to goo, so that's nice. Seems like a very nicely built tape deck. The only flaw is the speed control is off by 3.3% fast and no adjustments visible. Another oddity is that the faceplate and case are all metal, but the frame and back cover are plastic. It doesn't seem to hinder performance at all, but seems a bit odd to me, yet that is one cost-saving measure, and if the frame was all metal, this deck would be a lot heavier. As I mentioned in the beginning, I picked this deck up to work alongside my existing Marantz Professional tape deck from 1999 or 2000. The Marantz has a little better fidelity and has an automatic reverse, but that deck was heavily used and I have noticed that the speed is also off. In forward, it's at least 1% slow, and in reverse, it's at least 6%. The JVC deck here is off too, but it's consistently so, which means I can simply adjust the recording speed with Audacity. Well, that is all for today's episode of Mostly Speakers and an amateur tour of my JVC tape deck. If you like this video, consider subscribing, which would help my new channel grow. I do plan to make more videos like this one where I show off my collection of vintage hi-fi. Eventually, I will begin doing repair videos when I have the time and the skill in development. But for now, thanks for watching.